How about now? Do I have audio now? Hey! Oh, because I didn't press the start.
It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. My lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold.
Hello! Welcome to Monday! Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 56 of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. And despite this being the 56th show that I've done, sometimes there are just too many buttons to press. I've got like this Stream Deck thing over here that I programmed to do all sorts of stuff, and well, whatever. Hi. Every night, I and my army of bots scour the internet for news and content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and every day you'll find me here to share the bits that I find interesting. It's a curated list of content. I go through around 200 submissions every night. Last night I went through 400 submissions, and I only select a handful for the next day's show. These are the tools that I would use, that I think are interesting, that I might use, that I want to use. I don't know. They're things that I think are cool, and I'm excited to share them with you. If you're watching live on Twitch, click the follow button for the channel. If you're watching live on YouTube, because we're doing that again this week, click whatever. Click all that stuff that lets me know that you love me and that lets YouTube know you love me too, because then they share it and so on and so forth. Last week, all right, so I'm still trying to figure out the best place to do this live streaming thing. So I moved over to Twitch because YouTube's post-production post-stream stuff is terrible, and we were getting a lot of negative responses from people who tried to watch the live stream immediately after it ended. And for about 12 hours, YouTube is chewing on it, and it's just, you can't watch it. So we moved over to Twitch, and then I discovered at the end of last week that a lot of you can't watch Twitch from work, but you can watch YouTube. Okay, so today we're back on YouTube and Twitch. I might stay here, I don't know. Today's plan: when I had my managed services provider, I used to tell my employees that the way that we do things today is the best way that they can possibly be done. And tomorrow's way is going to be better. So today's plan is live stream here. It's going to get unlisted on YouTube immediately after it ends, and I will still upload a video right afterwards. So within, I don't know, 2 to 4 hours, you'll see the higher quality video up, and YouTube likes that better, and it shares it with more people. If any of you actually, I can also stream to LinkedIn. I totally don't use LinkedIn. I just say, yes, you can make a connection to me. Does anybody watch stuff on LinkedIn? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll make another poll for that. All right. So, yeah, let's get started. I have a lot of stuff to talk about today. And I do see a lot of you are in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't say hello to you today. Hello, everybody who's in the chat. Join the Discord server, join the live chat on YouTube, on Twitch. Okay, whatever. Y'all know what to do. Cluster Cloner. When I saw Cluster Cloner last week, I thought, oh, that's cool. It's a thing that clones clusters. And, because we're all kind of, we got these Kubernetes blinders on, we think that maybe it'll clone our Kubernetes cluster. But that's not actually what this does. And after reading into it, I realized that all of the talk about, hey, I want to be able to lift my stuff from here and put it over there, never really considers the underlying infrastructure. So this is a project that attempts to do that very thing. It attempts to reconcile the machine types, the instance types between Google, Azure, and AWS, and have you say, before you go and restore all of your actual Kubernetes workloads that you backed up in your data with Valero and so on and so forth, it'll actually try to build you a cluster that is analogous to the one that you're running in right now. They had an article. When was this released? Back in June. Okay, so this was one of the candidates for Tool of the Day, and I told you on Friday I'm kind of clearing out some of the stuff that I have in the backlog because there's some things in there that are just, like, I want to get them out here. That's supposed to be a picture of Dolly. I don't know why that's not loading. Hey, there she is. Hello, Dolly. It's a strange-looking creature. Anyway, so they give you more information here about what they're trying to do, and of course it's not perfect because there's no direct correlation between the instance types, but okay. Wifebot, can you share actually, you don't have the Discord link. Hang on. Bala wants the Discord link on YouTube. I can do that really quickly over here. It's restreaming. Okay, so actually I can do that anywhere. Wow, look at that. I'll do it over here. I will share the Discord link in the Discord server, and it will magically appear everywhere. Hey, look at that. Ta-da! And all the people who are in Discord are like, why did you share a link to the server that we're in? Because it's the internet, and we can do that. So Cluster Cloner might be interesting. KubeSpy from Pulumi. This is pretty cool. Though honestly, I don't really know what to do with it, other than the fact that it's pretty cool. It monitors the Kubernetes cluster, and you just basically you point it at a deployment, you point it at any resource, and it will tell you when things change with it. It can either trace stuff, or it can report the status of things, or it's got a third one that they don't have a pretty little ASCII thing for. But let's just show you a quick example. If we go to the terminal over here, you can see that I am watching the CNCN website deployment. And if I come over here and we look at the pods, you can see that there's one pod. So let's scale that to 2 replicas, and instantly, boom, ta-da, you see a diff. So you could use this as like a more advanced version of rollout status when you're changing something, and it'll show you the status of everything that's involved in your whatever resource you're watching as those statuses change. So there we go. We see that now things are ready and good to go. We can actually scale that back down, and it'll do the opposite. That's a really weak example, but it just shows you that it's kind of cool, just as a ready state observation utility. That's KubeSpy from Pulumi, another tool of the day candidate. But we have too many candidates for tool of the day. Anyway, we're cleaning house. Custom HPA. What? Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm not even looking at the Shia LaBeouf thing that was just posted in the chat. Ain't doing it. Okay, so custom HPA. Horizontal pod autoscaling by default will look at resource utilization of the pods themselves. But there are lots of other metrics that you can use to decide, oh, you know what, I need more of these things. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I was going to make something up, but it's early, so I can't even make up something that sounds cool. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make anything up. Maybe you have another metric. Let's be professional. Maybe you have a metric that you would like to use to scale your solutions, and you're monitoring that with Prometheus. Custom HPA allows you to basically pick anything and perform horizontal pod autoscaling. So you just fetch a Prometheus metric sample, calculate the scale factor, and if scale is permitted, then do it. Sounds easy, right? So you can create a custom algorithm that determines what it should do and when it should do it, and scale your stuff based on that. Ian posted this in the CNCN community site last week, and I see people posting the community link in Discord. Thank you for that. That's the free site that you can join where all of us, well, it's the community that's built up around CNCN. He posted this article. This also showed up in the bot feed last night. And Svilan, I hope I'm saying your name correct, had a comment in the CNCN site about why would I trade 1 tool for 5 tools, which is a very interesting comment. I went through this article, and basically what they're saying is that there's lots of other options available to you besides Docker. Docker's kind of like Xerox or Kleenex or, I don't know, it's probably other things. But it's not the be-all and end-all, and honestly, it's getting a little long in the tooth. There are container engines, there are container runtimes, there are utilities around containers and pods, and this article dives deep into all of them to help you decide what's appropriate and where they all fit together. Take K3s, for example. K3s uses the containerd runtime, but containerd is a runtime. It's not an engine. So there's no tooling for doing the kinds of things that you're used to doing, like Docker build or whatever, Docker pull. There's a CRI CTL that gives you some access to those things, but it's frustrating. There's another tool called Podman that, while I haven't played with it, I think it's pretty cool. If you're used to Docker run to run containers, well, Podman will allow you to run pods because Kubernetes doesn't do anything magical. Kubernetes just orchestrates things using functionality that's already present in the Linux kernel and in the operating system and binding all this stuff together. So a pod as a logical representation of multiple containers that share network space and storage and process space and some other stuff, it's just a logical representation. It's not like a real thing. So Podman allows you to launch containers or to launch pods. So even if you're not using Kubernetes, you could use Podman to get the pod functionality of Kubernetes with anything else that you're doing. If you have like Apache and PHP and you want them to be able to talk to each other on localhost because you've got, fast CGI running, great. Podman will do that for you without you needing all of the orchestration of Kubernetes. Sidecars are another solution. And they talk about who is this? This is written by Martin. So Martin talks about container engines versus container runtimes. He gives examples of so LXD. I don't actually like LXD. I do run LXC containers. Cryo. He should not have mentioned Rocket. Rocket is deader than Docker, but I don't know. It's probably still out there. And then build tools. So Builda and Kaneko, who we've had on the show a couple of times, and in fact, Vito, I think. Somebody was asking me about Kaneko yesterday, and I mentioned that when we had it on the show, there are those of you who use Kaneko. If you use Kaneko, please jump over to the Discord server, and Vito, I think that was you that was asking yesterday. I'm not going to go look in the chat right now. But Vito had some questions about it. So help each other out. That's the point, right? So Kaneko build kit, which is part of Rio and is another utility for building container images inside of a container environment. Source to image, Jib, Bazel, and then he gets into the container runtimes, containerd, runc. It's a very detailed article. The article is not saying that you need to replace Docker with a bunch of different tools. It's just pointing out that an all-in-one solution might not be the best solution. Containerd might be better for runtime, but if you decide to use it, or cryo, or whatever, then you still need to fill in the gaps of what it's not able to do. And there are other tools that do that for you. Don't feel like you have to be stuck with Docker just because it's the default thing. And in fact, the new RKE2 is based on containerd, but will use other container runtimes. You can run K3s with Docker if you want. We're at a place with all of this container nonsense where people can use the thing that's right for them, and people can even build the thing that's right for them. Rancher has its own container runtime that Darren built because he needed something that did something that the other stuff didn't do. That's a wonderful, wonderful place to be in. Opportunity, solutions, choice, freedom, good stuff. A lot of chatter on the wire about MicroK, who last week announced that they are now high availability. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. Well, you know what? There are other lightweight Kubernetes solutions that were already highly available. But hey, cool. Nice to know that you're highly available too. The thing about MicroK, their HA solution is actually built on their own DQ Lite solution. K3s had experimental HA support with DQ Lite. I tried using it. It destroyed my cluster because it was experimental. I don't know enough about the internals of how it was implemented to know why it destroyed the cluster, but it was weird. It was like it was running fine, and then I had to reboot one of the nodes, and it didn't actually do any kind of failover. And after that, K3s just segfaulted with no output, no debug data, no nothing. It just would never start again. And I found an issue that said, yeah, that happens. Whoops, sorry. We're going to pull DQ Lite out, and we're now going to use an embedded etcd. So K3s still has HA with an embedded etcd. It's still alpha, but that's the direction that K3s is going. Otherwise, K3s's HA solution requires external HA functionality, a database, MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, an external etcd cluster. And that's not realistic for a lot of scenarios. So right now, honestly, even though I'm all I bleed cows, um, the fact that microcates can do HA with no external dependencies puts it ahead of K3s until K3s can get the embedded etcd out into GA. I have not used microcates. It's on my list of things to do when I have more copious amounts of time, which is basically going to be never. Interesting. So there's a conversation going on in the chat right now about Docker using containerd already. I don't. Yes. So containerd appeared. Hang on. Well, now I'm distracted, and Nuno wasn't even responsible for it. Finishing up here. I don't use microcates. I would like to try microcates. If any of you use microcates and actually use it in a production environment, not just like Minikube locally on your machine, please come tell me in the chat because I'm interested to know your experience with it. Back over here. Sometimes, so Docker's great, but Docker fumbles a lot. The Moby project, for example, they said, okay, we're gonna release this open source thing called Moby, which is different from the open source thing called Docker that we already released, and it's the same thing, kind of. And everybody was like, what? And I still don't understand it. They also, I don't know if containerd development started from within Docker, but it was running in parallel for a while, and Docker had its own runtime engine up until containerd reached feature parity with Docker, and then they swapped out the engine. Now, where and what and how, I don't know where Moby fits in with that or what containerd is or if their tools can be used over here. I don't know. But it is an accurate statement that Docker's actual container engine is now containerd with their own tools around it. What that means is if you just want to run containerd over here, you can run your own tools around it. And you're basically like building your own Docker, but plugging in the pieces that you want. Vito says DQLite is more scalable than etcd. I don't know. I would think no. DQLite is just an HA version of SQLite. So SQLite is RDBMS. It's a database. Etcd is a key value store. Etcd is infinitely scalable. It can be huge. You can have many etcd clusters. Sorry, many etcd nodes in your cluster. The primary drawback for etcd over an HA database solution is that HA database solutions need 2 nodes. etcd needs quorum, so you need a minimum of 3 nodes or any odd number greater than 1. So 3, 5, 7, 63, 247, whatever etcd nodes, so that they can have an election that doesn't end in a tie. So if you're running etcd as an external data store, you need 3 nodes. If you're running MySQL as an external data store, you need 2 nodes. You can have more than that if you want. DQLite simply takes SQLite and makes it HA by doing replication, because SQLite is designed to be local file storage based. I don't know much about DQLite or how it operates, but it does replication between local SQLite instances and then leader election and a bunch of other stuff. But I would not say that it's more scalable or that it can keep a lot more data in objects. etcd is extremely powerful. Okay, chat going crazy. Hey, good morning, Mikkel. Mikkel says K3s can run on WSL2 as well. Okay. All right, so everyone's talking about microcates now. Let's move on so that we can talk about something else. Wow, we're not going to finish today. That's okay. Gravitational. These guys. I really want to like these guys. I really like their teleport product. I cast a shady glance at all of their Kubernetes stuff. So they have an article about how to set up Kubernetes single sign-on with SAML, which is great. It talks about how if you're authenticating with SAML, you want to use a proxy, and then they go into using teleport as the proxy and so on and so forth. So here's an article on how to... Which proxy will we use? Why don't we use our proxy? But the way they say it is like, we'll use an open source tool called Teleport, which was made by the same people. Regardless, teleport is a cool thing. And gravitational is still, they're really fighting to establish and maintain relevance. And they've carved out this weird little corner. And they're like, our corner is really important. I'm just not sold. But they're still there, and they're still waving their little flag. So, we'll continue talking about them until they either go away or until relevance is established. So using teleport, they show how to, wire all of this up for proxy and whatever. It's a very detailed document. I'm just going to stop scrolling a little bit. And we're going to go. So you see there's lots of stuff. Lots of pictures, lots of YAML, lots of follow along. And teleport is open source. So there's that. Then I found actually this article, Traffic, single sign-on with Keycloak, which, well, heck. Since I have it up, I'll move it over. We'll talk about that now. This is about doing single sign-on with Keycloak with Traffic Enterprise Edition. Traffic Enterprise Edition. I don't know if this will also work with the open source version of Traffic because I didn't read far enough into the article. I just got to what is Keycloak. Let's very quickly scan and see if there's like some special... I don't know if like the SSO stuff, that might be an Enterprise Edition functionality. But that's okay, because, Traffic Enterprise Edition is also totally cool and has great features, and Traffic is a fan of the show, or Containus. Hello. Well, I guess they're Traffic Labs. I will still call you Containus. It's like your maiden name. But Keycloak. Heard of Keycloak? Open source software. And I loved this right here. Actually, this is where I got to in the article. Keycloak is pretty expensive, and that's what I was saying. I was like, oh, Keycloak is pretty expensive. No, Keycloak is free. What? Keycloak is free. I had no idea. I've been lumping Keycloak out there with, Auth0 and other... No, Keycloak is free. It's open source. Holy cow. I can't believe I've never had it on the show. I can't believe I don't run it. Single sign-on, OIDC, OAuth2, SAML2... centralized management, adapters, social, LDAP, blah, blah, blah. It's open source. Sponsored by Red Hat. It's down there at the bottom. So Keycloak, sorry, Traffic, but we're moving on. Keycloak also provides a SAML connector. What? Okay, that's cool. I don't know if you could use this directly in Kubernetes, but I bet you could without using a proxy. I don't know. They have lots of documentation. They plug into basically everything. So either you can use this as your SAML backend, or you can use this as a regular backend and connect to it with OIDC or OAuth2. So I think, honestly, the gravitational article becomes relevant if you already have SAML. Because if you don't have anything at all, maybe you could run something else. I don't know. In my mind, every single time I've run up against SAML, like I have this association with, oh my god, that really hurt. Because I think the only thing more onerous than SAML is Shibboleth, which I think is just like a modified version of SAML. Shibboleth is a very cool name. Shibboleth sounds like something spawned from the dark reaches of the galaxy that's like going to come in and destroy things. It just doesn't sound friendly. I want to use an authentication system that's called like, Pink Fluffy Bunnies or something like that. Something that makes me be like, oh, I want to give it a hug. It's going to authenticate me and then be my friend. Authentication is comprised, so there's AAA. Authentication, authorization, and then auditing. And a lot of people just forget about the auditing part, and they talk about authentication and authorization. This article is paid, whatever. It's on Forbes. That's cool. Pay to get yourself listed on Forbes. No problem. It's from Styra, the founders of OPA. And basically what it says is very interesting. We think of authorization, and I've said this on the show. Authentication is, are you who you say you are? And authorization is the next part that is, are you allowed to do what you're asking? But that was when we had people. And now we have devices. We have mutual TLS. We have pods and services and physical devices like my phone that I never know where it is. So Styra is saying that we need to change how we think about authorization, because right now it's gone from, hundreds of access points and relationships to trillions of relationships, as every single one of these devices has to be configured to talk to other things, and you just can't do that with a flat yes, this, no, that type of architecture. You need policy, and you need dynamic policy that maps to, what are you, where are you, what are you asking to do, what are the other conditions around which you're doing this thing. And of course they're pushing for OPA because that's their baby. But it's a very interesting article about, you know what? Maybe we do need to step back and think about the larger amount of stuff that's going on here. It's a good article. I like OPA. I don't have time to learn Rego or Rego or however you say it. So I think I said last week that I'm gonna become a Dapper Dan man and use Kyverno. But I don't have time to use Kyverno either. Why don't I have time? Well, no time. Okay. Coming up on the top of the hour, we got some weirdness here. This is from Giant Swarm. This is the KVM operator, and I have no idea what this is, but it sounds really cool. It handles Kubernetes clusters running on a Kubernetes cluster with workers and masters and KVMs on bare metal. What? Kubernetes clusters running on a Kubernetes cluster with workers and masters in KVM on bare metal. It got my attention. They have zero documentation. This is one of those things that clearly they're running for themselves. Even if you go over here, it's it's like, yeah, it's like the internals of their actual Go file and API stuff. I'm not going to pick this apart. It sounds really cool. You ever see the movie The Fall? It's a wonderful, wonderful film, and there's a young girl in there who's just a crazy, over the top little actress girl, and there's a guy that she's talking to. They're in like a hospital in World War I or something like that, and he has a note, and he says, "I don't understand it," and she says, "You do not understand it. You do not understand it. It is not for you." And this is not for me, but wow, it's for somebody. I wish I could be cool like them. All right, we're going to punt the rest of these to tomorrow. And we're going to talk about the Clintainer. Should call it like Clint Eastwood Tainer. Clint Easttainer. Anyway, Clintainer. One of the things that I very much love doing, and I spent some time this weekend going through aliases with my fish shell environment. I am a fish shell user. Thank you to OneDrop, who's also a fish shell user, for pointing me at awesome fish, where I found some cool package things. Anyway, I was doing some cleanup on fish, and there are applications that I don't use frequently enough to justify installing them. And one of the things that's great about running with containers is you could just have a container that has that application. So Hey, for example, is a load generating tool that you can run to just beat the crap out of some HTTP endpoint while you're looking at what it does. Use it for auto scaling and stuff like that. I'm not going to install Hey, and in fact, Hey, they're like, yeah, compile it with Go. I'm not going to install Go. Like, I don't use it. No. But a container with Hey, and then I just created an alias where when I type Hey, it actually types, it uses Docker run and then like all of the arguments that come afterwards. If you're ever working on a remote system and you need utilities, this is a container that contains all of those utilities. So it's got Git, Git LFS, Bit, Oh My ZSH, you ZSH crazy people, kubectl, Kepton, Helm 3, Istio control, OSM, EKS control, K9s, kubectx, and kubeNS, which are two other utilities that I also use. And he's totally willing to add more stuff to it, or of course, obviously, you can yourself. I have a Swiss Army knife container that I got from Murali, who works for Rancher, leo.cloud, that has things like TCP dump and, well, that's really all I've ever used it for, but Git. It has other utilities, and I use that in Kubernetes clusters when I need to do stuff. You can attach it as a sidecar or do a bunch of other stuff. This is more for if you are, SSHing into a system and you need to be able to do stuff, or if you're on a system, like, I don't know, God forbid, you're in a cyber cafe and you need to, kubectl, whatever, probably shouldn't be doing that. But let's just imagine you're at your friend's house or your mom's house, because your mom's PC runs Docker, of course. So this is the tool of the day today. It is called Clintainer and is a CLI utility for running stuff in places. We were going to get Kepton on the show, and they haven't popped back up yet. What are they? They're Kepton.sh, right? Okay. Maybe we'll get Kepton on the show. Okay. Oh, Clint Eastwood GIF. Thank you, WifeBot. Lovely. All right. Wow, 25 people watching on YouTube. Nice. I guess we should continue to stream to YouTube. So we'll keep doing that. All right, everybody. That's it. I'm going to wrap this up. If you liked what you saw today, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitch. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on whatever. You'll get a notification when I start streaming. Join the community site. Links to everything that I talk about in the show actually go up in the community site. It's free. It's community.cncn.io, and you should just come join us. There's a lot going on there. Community members get access to the links and the video replay a day before the rest of the internet, and yeah, it's growing every single day. If you have something that you'd like for me to consider for the show, hit me up and let me know. You can mention me in a post in the community site, or you can ping me on Discord or Twitter. I'm going to stop telling people where to find me because I'm just going to be like, I'm the guy with the flag. Thank you for joining me on this delicious and wonderful Monday. Have a great day. Have a great week. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next show. Bye.